Welcome to the Verdin Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Got some LSU football news for you, recruiting update. We're going to talk about the transfer portal, who's in for the women's basketball team, who's out, men's basketball team, LSU baseball update, and we'll do March Madness picks. Got a full show for you today. First things first, I don't want to start the show, talk about anything else before we give our credit to our guy, Jelani Watkins, again. SEC Freshman of the Week once again, Ford track. Had to go ahead and shout that out. Everybody knows 10.01 second, 100 meter, the insane blitz and speed. Once again, walks away with Freshman of the Week honors. Not easy to do here in the SEC. A lot of competition, a lot of people. Iron sharpening iron. I think Jelani Watkins is going to be the damn iron sharpening a lot of people here. Without further ado, let's get into the stream. Hit the like button, subscribe button, comment if you need. Got any questions, concerns? We'll get to them throughout the show. I have a little bit of a concern. Recruiting. Now, as you know, Blaine Bradford, the number one safety, number one player in Louisiana, is now pretty much the number one recruit for Ohio State. The Baton Rouge commit from Catholic High, he was down to Ohio State, LSU, Oregon, and Texas. And inevitably, he selects the Buckeyes. Now, let's break it down a little more. He's got a brother that signed to LSU in the last recruiting class. He's also a safety, Jacob Bradford, the 2025 class. It's one of those interesting moments. You think you got something locked that maybe not locked in this era of recruiting, but you think you got a surefire thing, and then boom, you still got to worry about the big check. I mean, yeah, you got a big brand, but they got people with big brands and big checkbooks. That pairing, I think, it makes it a little tough. Obviously, you got the relationships, and you can double down, and since you're in close proximity, probably make a good impact on a kid throughout this recruiting process. But sometimes it just don't matter. Sometimes at the end, you can just come in with a check and change anybody's mind. Now, look, it's not over. LSU is not in a situation where they 100% lost. They didn't lose out. You can still flip a recruit like this, not only because of how close he is, but because he's still got a lot of visits, still visiting. I mean, he'll be at Ohio State, of course, naturally, but in June, he'll be at LSU. He'll take another trip to Texas. He's still hearing out offers. And that's the one takeaway I have from any recruiting update at this point in the year. No matter what team he commits for, no matter what rank he is, no matter what state he comes from, if he commits this early, it's a leverage play. It's a business decision. It's not necessarily one of those personal choices that he made, he's living with, and he's going to wind up at that university in a few months span. No, now you're in a business. Same thing in the NFL free agency market. I mean, T. Higgins goes and says, you know what, Cincinnati, I think I'm going to spread my wings and fly. I think I'm done. Jamar, Joe, it's been real. It's been fun. Ain't been real fun. I'm going to get paid. Then what happens? Leverage play. The Bengals cough up the money that he desired. Now he's getting paid $28 million a year next to a receiver getting 40, next to a quarterback getting 55. Leverage can play out depending on how you do it. And I feel like Blaine Bradford could potentially be joining this party. Like I said, flip always possible. It's going to have to be your main focus, though. I mean, if it's this big of a prospect, this big of a player, this big of a university chasing them, you're going to be a little bit behind. And the only way that you close in on that distance, you're going to have to do a little bit of extra work. You're going to have to do a little bit of catching up. But if he's in Baton Rouge and if he's at Catholic, I think that it's still an opportunity. And it sucks because this position is the position that LSU needs the most depth, the most oomph, the most stars, the most production. If you got someone like Blaine Bradford and we're able to develop him and put him in a situation to be a starter next year, year after, you're looking at a bright room and DB as a whole. I mean, pair him with guys like DJ Pickett, PJ Woodland. You even got Michael Turner. You got more names coming in. Aiden Anding. List goes on and on. This is how you bring LSU back to the DBU pedigree. Is a move like this. However, you're going to have to work hard on getting this back together. As of right now, it's still a great class. It's still getting put together, obviously, but they're sitting at the number 3 rank for what it's worth. They were number 1 a few weeks ago, but obviously it's going to keep shaking and moving around. But they are in a position to be able to continue the momentum, to have an improved recruiting class from this past season, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't the one you wanted. It wasn't what everybody was initially hyped up for. When we are talking number 1 recruiting classes, everybody's going to think back to Bryce, to Corian, Harlem, the whole 9. You got to have a situation that maybe isn't as big, as glamorous, as impactful, just a little more efficient. Let's get some of those guys home. And I think this is one of the people that you have to look toward. Might be tough. I know he already committed, but it don't matter. That signature is not signed, and he is in your city. Baton Rouge, Catholic High. I make the move. This ain't over yet. You still got a potential here. I believe in the recruiting staff. And I think, like I said, this is a priority. This is a position that they're going to have to target. This is something that LSU desperately needs as safety. And if you are able to add the number one player in that position, and hell, the number one player in the boot, you send a clear message. You have to keep these kids home. You have to recruit the boot and keep everybody in this purple and gold area. That's my opinion, especially a guy like Blaine Bradford. Don't let him go to Ohio State and make him better. Don't let anybody pluck the grapefruits here from Louisiana. Let's talk about the transfer portal, women's basketball, men's basketball. Now, there's a couple of things here to note. First, let's start on the women's side. Obviously, Samaya Smith enters the transfer portal. Now, what is going to happen because of that? LSU women's basketball, they're going to be back at the drawing board. You lose both of your front court pieces. You lose her, you lose Anissa Morrow. And now you got a big decision here if you're Flau'jae Johnson, because this can really go two ways. The team could potentially be built around you at the college level, or you could potentially be one of the more, younger installments into a WNBA franchise. Either way you go, I think you are taking a pivotal change in your career. So I could see her making either choice. WNBA, obviously, that's everybody's dream. You want to get to the professional level. You want to be the star. You want to be the one that pushes the light into that league. And I feel like it's capable. She's capable of it, especially Paige Breckers, especially pairing her with other talents. I believe Haley Van Lith is going to get into this draft pool as well. There's going to be a lot of names called here in this draft. So how does LSU make sure that Flau'jae is not one of them? Because quite frankly, that's your main priority. You got to keep Flau'jae out of the draft. If you're the LSU Tigers, if you're Kim Mulkey, if you're this coaching staff, I mean, you got to look at it from two different layers. They got the skill aspect. Obviously, she's one of the best players in college basketball. And I feel like if you return her and you put a team around her like this, especially the young guards that you're bringing in that number one recruiting class, they're going to develop and grow into something that I think is, larger than life, at least with what we've seen here at LSU. This could be one of those dynasty building pieces. You're really, really close to it, but you have to continue to layer this foundation. And if you look at the class that's coming in, you got Bella Hines, 5'9", Grace Knox, 6'2", Divines, 5'9", and Zakiya is 6 foot as well. Those are all guards, perfect heights. Most of them are going to be the 2 guard, but you got a couple of point guards in there as well. If you keep them on the same team as a Flau'jae Johnson, Michaela Williams, you bring in one of these big pieces out of the portal, I'm interested. Because now I think, like I said, you got one of the best teams. It's going to be interesting to watch the transition because through the last couple of years, you got a couple of names that you've been looking at in women's basketball. Obviously, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. You can throw Flau'jae in the mix there. Paige Breckers, Haley Van Lith, Cameron Brink. In this instant, you're watching all of those names transition to the professional level. The college level is going to have a star takeover, and it's going to be the face of the entire college basketball league. That star could be Flau'jae. If she comes back, that NIL will 100% exponentially grow. Now the decision is just to be made. Can it still grow at the professional level? And I'm going to argue that I think it could, because a lot of people wondered, can Angel Reese be able to profit at this level in terms of the NIL? And she was able to. Got a lot of deals from McDonald's to Sprite, Reebok, obviously. There's been a lot of opportunities, and I think it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow as more people get to the game as the WNBA expands and so on and so forth. But that's a personal decision for her in a sense where it could make sense. Now, for LSU, it's kind of more of a selfish decision, right? It's more of a, how can we, win another championship pretty much with Flau'jae? How can we prevent Flau'jae from leaving to make sure that we are in prime spot to go on another Final Four run? And I don't think you're damned if she leaves, but I do think you're in a completely different situation. Let's talk about who you might want to look at out of this transfer portal. You see this woman right here from Florida State, Nia Ladson. That is the only guard you got to focus on in the portal. I mean, I know Flau'jae's probably on the fence, could leave, could stay, whatever the case may be. If she comes back, you pair her with Ladson, and it's a fantastic duo. If she leaves, then Latson's going to be able to be the one that, fills in the shoes and creates that offensive role. I feel like, obviously, there's going to be some NIL talk here. There's a couple of schools I'm sure that are going to pull her in a direction. She can go to USC. She can go to South Carolina. She can go anywhere. When you're leading the NCAA in points per game, I believe it was 25 points per game, you can take your pick. at a university, and I'm sure that she will. Like I said, only guard on this list that I'm gonna rattle off for the women's team to hit in terms of portal, searches. She's at the top though. Tania Latson, absolute bucket. Then they got 3 centers that I think very interesting. You don't gotta get them. You don't need them. It's not. Oh, you do need them. You do need a backcourt. Let me be very, very, very frank here. I'm not saying you don't need height. You might not specifically need these 3. These 3 do jump off the page at me though. FAU has a huge 6'6" center that just entered the portal. Lavisa Hose. She's a freshman. A lot of experience. A lot of eligibility. Might be a little green. Might have to work through some things. But that size, very impactful, stands out a lot. Louisville has a 6'5" center, red shirt freshman is Izioza Imafiden. And then Auburn has a 6'5" center, sophomore Tamaya Thurman. That size at the women's level, when you are 6'5" or bigger, it's kind of hard to stop. Not a lot of people out there on the court to be able to translate and combat against that. And if somehow, some way, you can get a Leah Del Rosario or a Jersey Wolfenberger to get a little more aggressive, a little more physical, and play a little more of that size, that'd be a hell of a matchup. I'm not going to lie. You do have the pieces here for LSU women's basketball, but it's just a couple away. There'll be a couple more away if Flage leaves. So I think the biggest focus, make sure Flage stays. After that, if you feeling froggy and can make this work and get Lassen in there, good luck. Men's portal. Got a couple of departures, a couple of additions. We'll talk about the departures. I'm sure you've seen them. We maybe touched on them recently last week. Victorious Miller, Mike Williams, Corey Chest, Tyrell Ward, Noah Bide, all gone, leaving LSU. Goodbye. Kind of looks like that max exodus that you saw a couple of years ago when Will Wade got fired and then every single scholarship player left. It's one of those just growing pain periods for LSU. You got to get hit on the head a little bit before you can experience the fruits of your labor. You got to work and grind and get murked. And they might be done. They might be done doing that. But this is put up or shut up year for Matt McMahon. A lot of people are on the fence about it. A lot of people are saying, is it worth putting through an entire offseason, giving him the resources, giving him the millions, giving him this transfer portal class, and seeing if he can make something work? Now, I can see both sides. Matter of fact, that was the side that I was on for a while. I'm worried because if you go in, let's say you put $3 to $5 million on a roster, and I'm just loose lip and randomly throwing a number out there. Let's just say you put $3 to $5 million on a roster, right? I'm worried about how you're able to continue to develop culture when there is a large chunk of your team that does not return. Returning production is not everything, especially at the college level when you only need 7 to 8 guys. You don't got to return the whole team. But when you're losing pieces like Victorious Miller, when you're losing pieces like Terrell Ward, I mean, I'm glad you get Jalen Reed back, but there are some names here that are a little concerning that they're going to have to immediately answer in the transfer portal. And in my logic, if they answer it, are they back at where they were? Okay, it seems like you're in a situation where you might be taking a couple steps forward and buku steps back. Now, the alternative is, like what everybody's been saying, there hasn't been a lot of focus, a lot of emphasis on the portal, the recruiting, the NIL, all this, logistics side for men's basketball. Maybe now with the focus on it, it's able to grow and succeed quickly. I mean, a lot of other sports have had a similar success. Women's basketball, baseball. I would say football, but not to the extent people want. Men's basketball could be slowly trailing behind. But like I said, this is the year where you have to do something, whether it be a tournament, whether it be an impressive record, or get ranked in the top 10. I don't know. Something has to be done in Baton Rouge to get the hype and the juice back. There's not anything to get excited about. The minute you have something to get excited about, I think you're in a completely different situation. You got to get the buzz back around campus. The only thing I will say that's slowly starting to get the buzz back is the transfer from Dedan Thomas. UNLV guard, averaging 15 points, 4 assists. You got a center from Mississippi State, Michael Nwoko, 6'10". There's no portal ranks, no classes yet for the men's basketball team. I was really interested to see where they would be ranked at. I'm sure we got a long way to go. But both men's and women's portal closes on April 22nd. 20 days, less than 3 weeks. Coco Shama, if you're in the chat, we know what else is on April 22nd. If you're taking the outside, you can go ahead and register for that, John, as well. But the transfer portal, got what our guy did. I just sent in the chat. It's all about this. If you're not a visual watcher, if you just listen to the audio, the comment says he's trying to see how much NIL money he can get, and the highest bidder will win. That is college sports now, baby. That's football, that's basketball, that's baseball, that's tennis, it's golf, anything, bro. Every single sport is going to revolve around that from roster management now. You got to pay the piper. Pays the cost to be the boss, coach. LSU, hopefully, they're going to be on the side of paying it, because if you start getting murked, I think that brand slowly becomes, a little less powerful in the recruiting aspect. You can only hold for so long until you just start throwing the money. You might be in the year where you do it. Let's talk baseball. Baseball, they had the number one recruiting class. They've been putting some magic together. They had a couple of teams, get absolutely murked here at the box recently. Add LA Tech to that list, 12-3 victory last night, number 5 LSU, adding on to their record, 27-3. That is their best record through 30 games since 2013. A lot of time has passed between then and now. But how exactly is LSU creating this run? If you ain't been watching the games, it's an offensive explosion. That's the only way I can put it. I know the Mississippi State game, that was Saturday. It was late as hell. Not a lot of people got to watch it. They opened up the first inning with 8 runs. 8. Last night, they opened up the first inning with 4. Another explosive, quick start. The more you do that, the more wins you're going to get, the tougher it's going to be for people to stop you. Nobody's going to want to play baseball against these guys. Shout out Jared Jones, career home run number 53, 6 all-time at LSU. He's batting 400 on the damn year, 11 homers, 46 RBIs. Ethan Frey also went crazy. 3 for 4, double, home run, 4 RBIs as well. Had a variety of pitchers go in there, a trio, if you will, all freshmen. Will Schmidt, Cooper Williams, Maverick Rizzi, all got 6 innings pitched. You got to see your young depth flex some muscle a little bit. Obvious, Coach A. Johnson's happy with the performance, talking about a complete game, gave some praise to the pitching staff, gave some praise to the offense. That's been the star of the show, honestly. I mean, everybody's talking about the bats, the points, the RBIs. Jared Jones is my guy. I feel like he's really one of the biggest unsung heroes here of this team, and I don't even think he's unsung at this point. Everybody's giving him credit. Next series for the baseball team, don't miss it. Tomorrow in Norman on the road, 6 p.m. Welcome in Oklahoma to the SEC. Please, 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 please get a sweep. Get a sweep. I think, if you're able to even win this series, walk out here, come back to Baton Rouge with your head held high, move that ranking up. I know you dropped to number 5. They're going to move you back up. They know better. They know better. They know a thing or two. Let's talk March Madness. All right, I looked at every single game. If you don't believe me, just sit back and listen. I looked at every single game, both men's games, both women's games. I'm putting together a comprehensive betting review for you starting right now. If you love gambling, here you go. You're going to love this segment. Auburn and Florida. Very interesting. Well, first things first, for the men's team, I got an interesting statistic before I even talk about any game, before I even say any pick, before I even do anything. First time since 2008 that every single 4, all 4, number 1 seeds are in the Final Four. Auburn, number 1. Florida, number 1. Duke, number 1. Houston, number 1. The top seed in each regional segment is represented in the Final Four in San Antonio. Very interesting. Like I said, first time since 2008. That is 17 years. Lord. Both SEC schools, obviously, Auburn and Florida, could have had more. Tennessee lost to Houston. Bama lost to Duke. You were this close from watching an entire Final Four of SEC schools. Instead, you get 50% of the field. Still very good. Best conference in sports. It's climbing up in every single sport. I mean, yeah, we could talk about it being football. Baseball's making it a little dominant run. Now college basketball, both facets, men's and women's, you got a lot of teams flexing, a lot of teams busting. Because on the other side, you got 50% in the SEC as well, South Carolina and Texas. So shout out the Southeastern Conference. However, let's talk more about these matchups. Florida beat Auburn in February in the regular season, 90-81. Then they went on a little run, beat Texas Tech in the Elite Eight, but they overcame a 9-point deficit with 3 minutes left. Very, very important to note. Got a couple of pieces here on Florida. Walton Clayton Jr. is a senior guard, 19 points and 5 assists per game on his average. Will Richard, another guard, 15 points, 6 boards. They got some pieces, right? They got some guard play. They got some consistent offensive output. I think that's really one of the most important themes of this entire tournament is the consistency at the offensive spot. If you've got guys, multiple depth pieces that you can look toward, that if one ain't hot, the other one's going to be able to provide you a 10 or a 12 or whatever, and everyone's consistently getting the bucket of the basket, you got a pretty efficient team. Efficiency, I think, wins more often than not in these tournament settings. Sometimes you got games where you're barely scoring any points, 50, 60 points. Also, it's important to know the spot that both of these programs are at. And a lot of these games are going to be like this, but it's kind of a team that has been here and a team that's looking to get here for the first time. Florida is going to look to get their third national championship. Last one was in 2007. Auburn never won one before. Matter of fact, this is their second Final Four in program history. A couple of interesting storylines here. I do like the player personnel for Auburn. Johnny Broome, he's a dog. Junior forward, 17 points, 9 rebounds per game. Miles Kelly, another one of those guards for Auburn that I think is interesting. 14 points per game. He's able to kind of provide a good asset here. I'm going to go on a opposite take. Made a bracket. Had a school project. Had to make a bracket about 2 weeks ago. And I picked Auburn to win. I picked Auburn to win. And I'm not going to just simply sit there and ride the pick because I want to see my bracket get made. I made the research. Objective decision. I'm picking Florida to win. I got the Gators. Not murking them. It'll be a close game. But I do think Florida can come out with this. Now, don't hold me to it. But I think there are a couple of interesting trends here. Like I said, Auburn looking to kind of turn it over, give it a new, spin on their program. Haven't been to or haven't had a national championship. Only been to one other Final Four. Another one thing I want to point out. Auburn went on a tear in SEC play. You know who gave Auburn their first loss at the SEC level? Florida. Shout out to them. They've done it before. I think they can do it again. Now, you do have the rematch aspect to it, right? I mean, sometimes rematches are tough. Sometimes rematches, you give a little more film, a little more tape for some people. You got another rematch here in the women's segment between South Carolina and Texas. But before we get to that, let's finish the men's segment off. Duke and Houston. This one's easy. Cooper Flagg, obviously, freshman forward, talk of the town, projected number 1 pick, averaging 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. I couldn't leave that off. 2 blocks per game. What an eraser. Expected to declare for the draft, despite the talks of him potentially staying at Duke. Everybody wants to talk about him potentially doing a damn Eli Manning and saying, nah, I'm coming back to Duke. Why would you do that? That's uncertain. If you go back and do another year of college basketball, it's uncertain on if you're the number 1 pick. It is certain right now that you're the number 1 pick. And I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year and drop to number 2. Injuries, potential team that's getting the number 1 pick that doesn't need a big man. There's a lot of things that you can worry about. But why worry about it? Right now, in the present moment, you are the top-rated draft prospect. Enter the damn draft. I know it sucks. You're probably going to go to a team you're not happy with, but that's the problem with being the number 1 pick, baby. You're not going to a spot where you're going to be in love with it. Matter of fact, he might be in New Orleans playing for the damn Pelicans if the things keep playing the way it's playing out. He might be the Pell Savior playing with Zion Williamson. I can see why you might want to head back to Duke. But like I said, into the damn draft. Ain't no point in being spectacle. Both teams on a huge winning streak. These are pretty much the top 2 teams in college basketball for the men's side. Duke is on a 15-game win streak. Houston's on a 17-game win streak. How about this, though? This is Duke's 18th Final Four appearance, their first one without Coach K in 47 years. It's the first time Duke has gone to the Final Four without Mike Krzyzewski. Going to be very interesting to see how they play out with this. High-powered offense in Duke, high-powered defense in Houston. This is one of your classic matchups. And I'm going to take the offense. I was saying the other day, great offense beats great defense all the time. I can sit here, spot up in the corner, bust a 3-pointer over someone. If you contesting it and you ain't tipping it and you ain't blocking it, you just in the face, you might have to pluck one out. You might get it washed. Kawhi Leonard said it best. Great offense beats great defense. I'm riding with Duke. If you want me to bet the men's national championship, you're going to have to wait to see that one. But I think it'll be Duke and Florida battling it out. It'll be interesting to see, though. I've been wrong before. Let's talk about the women's bracket now. All number 1 seeds in this bracket except UConn. They're the number 2 seed. And quite frankly, they're the team I think that might have the most oomph to win this tournament. And it's all because of the woman on the right there, Paige Bueckers, averaging 35 points per game in her 3 tournament games. Didn't play in the first round. They sat her, and they beat the dog crap out of Arkansas State. It was like 109 to 30-something. Didn't need to, even risk it. In the 3 games she's played, 34 points, 40 points, and 31 points. UConn beat USC in the Elite Eight. They're in their 24th Final Four appearance. Look, they ain't even cut the nets down. And UConn, they've been to so many Final Fours. When they get to it, when they win the Elite Eight, when everybody else is celebrating cutting a net down, Paige Breckers and the entire UConn team, they heading back in the locker room, coach. Job's not finished. We got 2 games left. We want a ring. We don't want a net. We want a ring. We want a trophy. We want the whole 9 yards. I respect it. The USC game, obviously, is a unfortunate. Paige Breckers and Juju Watkins would have been cinema. Absolute cinema. Juju probably would have gave 30. I mean, Paige obviously going off with 31, but look, that would have been one of the best matchups I would have ever seen. That's an unfortunate aspect of it. UCLA, let's talk a little bit about them. Oh, one more note on Paige Breckers. She played the entire damn Elite Eight game. The entire game. Entire one. This is what I think is going to be the X factor here for UConn. You got a player similar to Caitlin Clark who's about to end her college career, who's been very impactful, who needs one more thing to polish off that resume, and it's a national championship. And I think she's going to fight tooth and nail to get it. And she is not the only person that's balling out there. Sarah Strong, UConn freshman. I don't know if you heard the name. LSU tried to recruit her. She's a dog. 22 points and 17 rebounds against USC. Oh, my God. My jaw dropped when I saw that. Now, that's a forward. A freshman forward at that. Somebody that's young with no experience going into the tournament and just saying, hey, watch this. 22 and 17 pop, just like the Joker. That's a insane duo. And there's more names, obviously, but those two, Sarah Strong, Paige Breckers, that's going to be a tough 2-headed monster to stop getting to this championship. And you only got 2 games left. And I don't think UCLA is really going to. I mean, look, they're a solid team. Obviously, they beat LSU in the Elite Eight. Now they're in their first ever Final Four. Very solid team. They beat USC in the Big Ten title game with Juju, by the way. Juju had like 29 points in that game. They still got it done. They got the Big Ten championship away with it. I don't know. I think Paige Breckers is that X factor. I think she wants, she needs, and she will do anything to get a national championship. I will say, though, Lauren Betts, sophomore center for UCLA, she's 6'7". That's massive. That's tough. Who's 6'7" out here to guard that? 6'7". It's impossible, though. 20 points per game, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks. I mean, bro, I can't sit here and talk about Cooper Flagg's 2 blocks per game without mentioning these 3 blocks per game. That's an insane statistic. Kiki Rice, obviously, the guard that was American LSU. She hadn't had less than 7 assists all tournament. Everybody wants to focus on points per game. How many points are you scoring? How many times is the basket going through the rim? It's 14 points per game, but in 7 assists, if you do some quick math, that's at minimum another 14 points. She's responsible for 28 points per game. Almost 50% of the points come through Kiki Rice. The 14 points per game is good. 7 assists, minimum of 14 points. If they're chucking threes, it can get up to 21 points responsible for with the dimes. That's an absolute unit. You're going to have a nice little battle here, and I think it can even be very similar to the Auburn and Florida comment that I made, where one team, UConn, has been here a lot, 24 times to be exact. UCLA, this is their first time, and they're trying to make their presence felt. I don't know if they can do it. I'm taking UConn money line. That's what I got. That's my pick. Paige Breckers, I think, going off, going crazy. I would say they win the whole thing. There is one team stopping them. There's one team in their way, daunting, creating a big shadow, trying to stress somebody out. Coach Dawn Staley, South Carolina. They do got to go through Texas, though. And it'll be interesting here because Texas actually beat South Carolina. They ended South Carolina's 57-game SEC win streak by beating them 66-62 on February 9th. That's an interesting conundrum because sometimes I feel like when you beat a team, you got the confidence to do it again. But when you beat Dawn Staley's team, I don't know, coach. She might have that film cut up and ready. They might have been watching that since February 9th. You got a month, 2 months almost in between then. I don't know. I think they might have learned a million lessons from that game. Dawn's one of those coaches I feel like she's always got a tough squad. Both of these squads are tough. They both beat LSU this season. I don't have to take it there, but I'm just saying they both did beat LSU. This is the top of the SEC right here. South Carolina obviously won the SEC tournament. Who they beat to get it, though? Texas. Exactly. They did beat Texas in the regular season as well. They're up 2-1 on the series right now. Gamecocks advancing to their 5th consecutive Final Four. 5 years in a row being in the top 4. That's an impressive feat. This is Texas' first Final Four appearance since 2003. Be very interesting. I do want to point out one theme, one narrative, one opportunity for Texas to be able to slip through, get a victory, and somehow, some way make it to the national championship game past South Carolina. So Texas forced 21 turnovers against TCU. Now, TCU is not South Carolina. I know this. However, South Carolina's off of their second lowest scored game in NCAA tournament history. They scored 54 points versus Duke. Texas is coming off of an impressive physical defensive performance. If Texas can put South Carolina in a position where they're only scoring 50 to 60 points and they're slow to respond and it's kind of a tight back and forth bully ball game, Texas can come out. If you play physical defense and make South Carolina earn every bucket, make Chloe Kitts earn every bucket, make all of these players be on their P's and Q's, you could walk out of there and potentially play UConn and Paige Breckers in that natty. Potentially. South Carolina and UConn is probably going to be the most entertaining matchup, most probable matchup. I ain't ruling out UConn and Texas, but I will say my pick, final pick, South Carolina. If you want all my picks for March Madness, here they are. One more time. The men's, Florida beating Auburn. Duke beating Houston. Women's, UConn beating UCLA. And then I got South Carolina beating Texas. I ain't telling you to bet it. I ain't telling you to parlay it. Do it as you please. But that's what I got. The women play Friday. The men play Saturday. You got some time to digest it. Think about it. We'll be live Friday at 9 a.m. to talk about it. Must Tim. We'll be talking about some spring football things as well. What has LSU been doing good in spring football? What do they got to improve on? I'm not going to say what are they doing bad because you got time to be able to work on it. We're not going to sit here and be uber critical. Not yet. Still got a lot of time. I got a lot of confidence too. Appreciate y'all watching this stream. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, whole 9 yards. Join the community. Stay with us. Stay informed on the best LSU news. This has been the Verdin Verdict. We bring you sports talk on the go. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Y'all enjoy your day.